All right, now let's talk about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is a team, big bowl game win. They look dominant against Oregon State. This is a team that people thought, this is a really great team. Sam Hartman was here. The defense was great, ranked 6th in the country, I believe. This was a really good team, but it looked like potentially a lot of players could have been leaving. A rebuilding year. Al Golden isn't going to have quite the squad on defense that he once had. But everything has turned around now with a overwhelming amount of players staying this coming season for the Fighting Irish. So let's get into the article and talk about it on the other side. This first part is from Irish Breakdown. It says, Notre Dame offseason just got way better as All-American safety Xavier Watts announced his plans to return to the program for a 5th and final season with the program. Watts joins fellow All-American Howard Cross III, as well as defensive tackle Riley Mills and linebacker Jack Kaiser as veteran defenders who decided to return to the program for one more season in 2024. Getting Watts back is the biggest decision yet for a number of reasons. Not only was Watt the team's best defensive player in 2023, the safety position would have been pretty thin had he departed. His return means the Irish have a veteran leader and a big-time playmaker to groom young talent before his ultimate departure following the 2024 season. Also means, once again, they have a shot to put one of the best secondaries in the country on the field alongside All-American caliber player and cornerback Benjamin Morrison. But Nick, that is not it. There is one more addition as well. Let's get into that one very briefly. This is from Slap the Sign. It says, veteran defensive lineman Jordan Botelho announced that he'd be returning to Notre Dame football for the 2024 season as well. It will be his final year of college eligibility and marks the last defensive stud who will allow Al Golden to reload rather than rebuild from the 2023 campaign. And the rest of the article basically just says this is great news because from 2020 to 2022, Botelho looked really great, but he really broke out in 2023. That's when he came into his own. So one more year of him at the top of his game is going to be excellent for this Irish defense. Nick, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, but Irish fans, let us know in the comment section below. A lot of names, a lot of players coming back on this defense. Who do you think is the most meaningful veteran coming back to this defense? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this defensive revolution for the Irish?
It is absolutely monumental for 2024 because obviously the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, I say obviously, but for those of you who aren't familiar, Notre Dame is starting the season at Texas A&M at Kyle Field on the road. Texas A&M still an SEC team, still loaded with talent. They've got a new head coach, an offensive-minded guy. That could be a tough situation for any team to go into to kick off the regular season. The fact that you have a veteran defensive group allows you to start strong defensively because that's going to be key for Notre Dame going into next season. Now that the college football playoff is going to be 12 teams, it's going to be important to get key wins for all teams, especially Notre Dame, because they don't have the conference championship on their side. They don't have a game where they can get a potential extra win against a quality opponent. They have to start the year around the top 10, top 8, top 12, and maintain that with big wins. And going on the road to an SEC opponent and getting a big win would be absolutely critical for Notre Dame's playoff hopes. And having a veteran defensive group, a bunch of guys returning who want to come back and play football for Coach Golden, for Coach Freeman, I think is a great sign for the Fighting Irish. Because if you look at their schedule, their first 4 games this season, after A&M, they got Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami of Ohio. If they handle A&M at A&M, tough game, but with a veteran defense, I think they do it. Then they get Louisville at home. They get Stanford at home. There is a good chance if they can beat Louisville, again, at home, I like their chances there, and then handle Stanford, they would be 6-0, probably a top 6 team in the country at that point. Then you can afford to maybe have a loss or two, because if you look at their stretch down the end, they have Florida State, and then they end at USC. To be realistic, right? Obviously, you're probably going to have one loss between those two teams, and you may have a slip up along the way the rest of the season as well. Just, random games. It's college football. Sometimes you'll lose a game you're supposed to win. A 10-2 Notre Dame team that starts strong, I think, makes the top 12. That's why this is so important that all these guys are coming back. This is a team that needs to start strong, especially considering they're going to have a new quarterback, transfer Riley Leonard. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get up to speed. Having a better defense should help bridge that gap.
Yeah, Nick, and I think this just shows there's a lot of belief in Al Golden's defense. These guys, there's a lot of camaraderie there. So having all of these players return for their final year at Notre Dame is just going to be so huge because we all know the 12-team playoff is coming to effect. I think there's just a belief in this team that with all of the pieces coming together, they have a really great shot at making the college football playoff, as you alluded to, kind of gave the formula for what they need to do. But it just shows the team believes in itself because it's these players' decision whether they stay or not. They do not have to stay. They could go to any other team. They could declare for the draft, whatever they decide they wanted to do, but they decide to stay with the Fighting Irish. There's a lot of history there. This is a team that's built on a lot of strong defenses as well. We remember last time they're in the national championship game, it didn't go the way they wanted to, but that was a great Notre Dame defense led by Manti Te'o. It was a really, really spectacular group. So I think this Notre Dame having a strong defense, like you said, allows Riley Leonard to get into his rhythm. But the defense is going to be the key to getting a good start on the season. And I'm really glad all of these guys decided to stick together for one more last push to get them to the college football playoff next year.
And there's one more point I want to end on, Mize, because it's an important thing to understand. Because sometimes when you have a lot of guys coming back and you have a veteran team, that's usually good. But sometimes you can have a lot of guys coming back and your team wasn't very good, right? You're sitting there like, hey, we've got, a bunch of returning stars and a bunch of returning players, but we were a bottom 10 defense, right? Is that really the best situation? That's not the case with Notre Dame. They had the sixth ranked defense in the entire country, number 6, ahead of programs like Georgia, ahead of programs like Alabama, giving up about 276 yards per game on average over the course of the regular season. This was an elite defense that's returning with a bunch of veterans. They could theoretically be even better next season, and they're doing well in the recruiting game and transfer game as well. Right now, according to 24/7 Sports, they have the 8th overall rank for the recruiting class of 2024 and 22 in the transfer portal. So this is a Notre Dame team that not only is returning a lot of guys for veteran guys, they also have a good group of core young guys coming as well. So right now, it looks like Notre Dame, building off their big victory over Oregon State, continues to have a lot of momentum behind them. This is a team right now, the way things are going, I think definitely makes the college football playoff next year and could make a lot of noise in that playoff as well.